My name is Luke Stokes. I'm the Managing Director for the Foundation for Interwallet Operability. We're a usability solution for all of crypto. And I got involved in this project because it's pretty exciting. I've been in crypto for, since January 2013. Been involved in a lot of different things. I've got a computer science degree. I've been a validator on a bunch of networks like Steam and Hive and EOS. So I've kind of seen the space grow and evolve over time. And I've been a bit concerned, along with many others, and it's been mentioned here in a couple of different presentations and panels, the concerns over the high fees, the concerns over the throughput. And I know that we have layer 2 solutions that can be helpful. Real quick, do we have a clicker we can use as well? Or we'll just ask you to flip through slides. Thanks. And so we're going to be talking about a project called Waterfall that I found very, very exciting. Because when I got into this industry, I was really excited about peer-to-peer digital cash, money for the unbanked, this kind of way that you can be your own bank, this way that you can actually have new financial services, financial inclusion, new opportunities. And unfortunately, what we got is kind of a rich person's only club with some of these DeFi contracts. Some of these opportunities are not accessible to everyone. We didn't get a new internet that has privacy and security built in with a fundamental payment layer. What we got is something that is a usability nightmare and kind of engineers building tools for their engineers and performance challenges where they can't scale for the billions of users that are coming. Go ahead and get the next slide. There's I don't know if you can actually read, most of it might be blocking a little bit. You want to scoot, we can scoot one chair down and then we can see the slides a little better. The diffusion of innovation, this theory talks about how these network effect technologies are adopted. And we've been seeing the doubling of adoption for over 10 years in the Bitcoin adoption. Doubling and doubling and doubling. Most people don't recognize this when it happens. When you hit that tipping point of 8%, it's inevitable that you're going to reach 100%. Right now, we're at about 3.9% of the world using crypto. So we're one doubling away from inevitable mass adoption. And it took, if you go to the next slide, you can see it took about, where we are on the internet, it took about 7.5 years to go from where we are now to 1 billion users. But in Bitcoin adoption terms, we're about 3 to 5 years away. The curve is even steeper. It's happening much faster. So when I tell people you're about 3 to 5 years away from 1 billion users in cryptocurrency, most people don't believe me. They don't understand this. How is this possible? Because they don't have a mechanism in their brain to recognize exponential growth. But this is the ecosystem we're in. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, we have really high fees, low throughput. We can't scale for mass adoption. There's an example of, and Crystal was just talking about it. You mint these NFTs, and sometimes the NFTs, the gas costs are higher than the NFTs themselves. We have a very serious problem. And we're talking about this being the new solution for the world, and it just doesn't work. Not only can it not scale for those billions of users that we have, it can't scale for the billions of devices they have as well. Now, we've heard a lot about layer 2 solutions. I'm very optimistic about Lightning Network and ZK snarks and optimistic rollups, the Ethereum 2.0, the different solutions for scaling. But what's interesting is, what if there's a way to take those scaling solutions and put them on top of something that's even better than blockchain? What if the solution to the scaling problem is a post-blockchain technology? And that's part of what we're talking about today. It's called a directed acyclic graph, or a DAG. And one of the interesting things about this technology is that it's EVM. And what I mean by that, and I'm throwing out some terms you can Google later, what I mean by that is the Ethereum virtual machine. I know we've got a lot of crypto OGs in here, but we've also got some new people as well that just want to understand what the heck is going on. Maybe they haven't been part of like the block size debates in 2014, 15, 16. And they're not as familiar with what's going on, and it's just normal to have high fees. Well, it wasn't always like that. In the beginning, this stuff was really peer-to-peer, and it was available for everyone. So now we have opportunities to take this post-blockchain technology where you're producing multiple blocks simultaneously instead of one block at a time. And you can actually scale to the 60,000 or so transactions a second you would need for Visa, MasterCard, UnionPay to actually solve the problems of the existing financial system. So I'm pretty excited about that because it's EVM compatible. It is the EVM itself modified as a DAG. All these solutions we've been talking about for scalability can actually be put right on top of that technology. And we're going to see a little bit more of that today as Sergey presents. Sergey is the CTO for Waterfall. He's the genius behind this entire project. His team in Ukraine is absolutely amazing. I've been building websites since 1996, and it's rare to see a team that can deliver as quickly and as accurately when they say, oh, in 3 months or 2 months, we're going to get this done, and they nail it. And he's usually ahead of schedule as well, which is incredible. But he's going to be talking a whole lot about our testnet, which is up and running. If you're curious as you're listening to this presentation, go to waterfall.foundation and learn more as we're going through it. And at the end, we're even going to have an opportunity where you guys can actually play around with the testnet. We can meet with us and we can give you some tokens as well. But again, I'm very, very excited about this opportunity because this is the answer I've been looking for. I've been making promises for almost 9 years to my friends that we're building something incredible. We're building something that's going to change the world. We're going to replace the financial systems. We're going to replace the governments. We're going to build DAX and DAOs and DeFi and NFTs and all these beautiful things. But I haven't been able to deliver because the performance of the technology is just simply not there. And again, layer 2s are interesting. I'm very excited about them. But when I can just take them and put them on top of something even better, now we get to potentially hundreds of thousands or even millions of transactions a second. It gets even more interesting. So, Sergey, if you want to take it from there and tell us all about the technology you've been working on for a really long time and doing some great work on.
Thank you for the introduction, Luke. Hello, everyone. My name is Sergey Grivnyak, and I'm the CTO of Waterfall. So, we measure our technology by 4 characteristics, and we run tests for it. So, characteristic number 1, I think we should go to the... So, yeah. Characteristic number 1 is scalability. So our testnet is relatively fresh. I mean, it's very actually fresh. We launched it like less than 2 months ago. So we ran multiple tests, and we arrived to more than 1,000 transactions per second as of now. We do believe that we can scale it significantly further, and under certain assumptions, we are able to reach up to 50,000 transactions per second on the single shard. These assumptions proven viable during testnet, so we are still during recent tests, so we're still kind of far from it, but we're getting there. I think we need to go next slide. So yeah, characteristic number 1 is usability. What prevents mass adoption sometimes? It's one of the things which prevents mass adoption is the fact that blockchain is kind of not as much user friendly as centralized solutions. So we are doing one step towards this direction. So we embedded certain standard functions into the core of our block, actually of our DLT. So, and for example, for you to issue the token, now you don't need to write a smart contract or find a developer to write a smart contract. It is simple smart contract, but still, for non-technical users, it is a challenge. So you can issue tokens utilizing simple transaction, and and we are going to increase this direction. So we will be embedding certain standard functions into the core, so for it to be more user friendly.
So what that means is essentially, if you want to mint an NFT, you want to launch your token, you want to do basic things on Ethereum, you don't have to go hire a developer and figure out how to get that minted for you and deployed for your specific use case. It's going to be a fundamental function of the actual DAG itself.
So characteristic number 3 is compatibility. Basically, yeah, we utilize pretty much very same structure as Ethereum block, so it is the same structure except very minor changes, and it allows us to use actual Ethereum virtual machine, and our characteristic of compatibility are quite high. So certain smart contracts are you can just copy and paste them, and they will work on our DLT. Some more complicated smart contracts may require some changes, but these changes are not significant, and this allows quite easy and simple migration from, for example, for certain applications which would like to experience some lower fees or higher throughput, so they are able to do this migration to expand.
So that means you could move Uniswap or SushiSwap or any of these other applications that are built on EVM blockchains, such as Binance Smart Chain or Ethereum or any of those, right over to the Waterfall DAG.
Next slide. So so characteristic number 4 is interoperability. So we do believe into multi-chain future, and this is a very important characteristic. All of the existing layer 2 solutions of Ethereum may exist on Waterfall as well for the same reasons. We are very close to Ethereum by our by how we store data, by how we process data, and that adds to it. And we're going to explore this direction quite significantly going forward.
So that means all the solutions that Andrew Keys was talking about, those layer 2 solutions that bring in privacy, that bring in performance, those can work on top of Waterfall.
Next slide, please. So we utilize nodes with on the servers with 2 cores and 4 gigabytes RAM. If you will observe, for example, most of the most popular smartphones, they actually have 4 to 8 cores and with 4 to 16 gigabytes of RAM. So we, again, cores on the servers and cores on the smartphone are not exactly the same, but we can say that our testnet environment are close and sometimes even lower than actually what our servers are lower. Characteristics of our servers are lower than current popular smartphones.
And this is important because of decentralization. There's a thing called the trilemma. You can have performance, security, or decentralization. You can usually only pick 2. And often they sacrifice the size of the node required. So you have these massive machines to run on the network. And that's how they're able to get the throughput. They're sacrificing decentralization because there's only a small number of nodes that are really, really powerful. This technology that Sergey and his team has built is small nodes, small servers that can run, and so you're not sacrificing decentralization.
Next slide, please. Now addressing the question why we are doing all that. So Visa currently process 1,700 transactions per second on average, and their peak performance is 64,000 transactions per second. I was not able to find MasterCard, but we anticipate it to be pretty much the same. UnionPay most recently announced that they have 240 transactions per second throughput. So if we sum it all up, we will arrive to pretty much to numbers close to 350 to 400,000 transactions per second. It is possible that with applying sharding to Waterfall, we may arrive to potentially millions transactions per second, but even if, for whatever reason, we will arrive to even to a couple times lower performance, it is still possible that we may be able to run Visa, Waterfall, Visa, MasterCard, and UnionPay on Waterfall. Next slide, please. So, exploring the direction of compatibility, we have taken Uniswap and we migrated it to Waterfall. So currently it is up and running. It was already tested. So you are able to test it using MetaMask, and actually Compound is probably coming soon, and we will also do some experiments with other popular applications. So it will allow us to understand all the requirements of this, and then we will issue precise guides on how to do this for developers. We're also going to give access to developers community for them to be able to test it for their apps, and this is coming very soon.
And there's a little disclaimer you can't see on the bottom here. It's blocked by the couches. It says no partnership nor endorsement was received from Uniswap or Compound. But we are just kind of hacking around on the testnet with this stuff. It's pretty exciting. I was playing around with it just earlier. Again, if you want to play with this stuff, come find us, and we can actually get you hooked up with some tokens on the testnet so you can play around with it.
So you are able to utilize MetaMask. These are credentials you need to use. Also, you can approach Luke and myself, so we will give it to you, and you are also able to find it on our website. So this credential, MetaMask, will allow you to enter testnet, to receive tokens, to transact with them, and to work with applications we have migrated or are going to migrate soon.
And the network name is Waterfall, not Watertall, correct? We got a typo up there?
Yeah, it's actually the pixelation on the text is kind of messed up.
Network name is Waterfall. Perfect.
Yep. And why this is important is there's a massive investment that's gone into the whole EVM space. You've got Consensus, you've got obviously Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum and all these different platforms, MetaMask and other things like Uniswap that have been building on EVM compatible technology. We essentially get all of that as we're demonstrating here for free. It just works, and it works with high performance. It doesn't sacrifice that trilemma. You're not sacrificing decentralization or security. And so it's a pretty exciting opportunity to make this whole industry work better for the people that want to actually provide financial inclusion and different things of that nature.
I think the next slide, please. So yeah, this is it. Using this QR code, you can get to our website, and there you also can find all this data, and there will be more updates soon on this matter. Thank you.
And again, that is Waterfall Foundation. I think we do have some time for questions, which I'm excited about, because I know there's a lot of questions about this stuff. There's questions about DAGs, about the technology itself. It is rather new. We are doing some experimentation. I think it'd be great, Sergey, to talk a little bit about your team from an academic perspective, the work they've been doing out there. But we'd love to have any questions about this. We're making some big claims that we can solve some of the trilemma problems, which most people say, blockchain can't solve that. And it's possible it can't. But that's why we're doing post-blockchain technology. This is a digital ledger technology with a DAG structure that might be very, very interesting. So I'd love to hear any questions if you have them.
How does it work together, bro? How am I able to work with like Polkadot, Ethereum, Wax, Bitcoin? How am I able to run all these blockchains together at the same time?
I think that's actually a really important problem that hasn't been effectively solved in the industry. Essentially, that's a bridging solution. The idea that I can do a transaction on one chain and another chain is going to know about it, such as like minting an NFT here, burning it, and having it show up on another chain. One of the things that we've been working on, actually with FIO, and I think other groups are working on as well, is building multi-sig bridging solutions. And a multi-sig is essentially multiple people have to come together to agree for that transaction to take place. One of the neat things about Waterfall is that we've been thinking about the white paper that Sergey and his team wrote has been thinking about bridging from the beginning as a core fundamental. Do you want to talk a little bit more about bridging?
Well, two-way bridges, they actually allow protocols to potentially transact and talk to each other. And yeah, that's one of the important things here is preserving the standards. And this is why we are actually trying to follow the standards which are already established.
Any other questions? Again, what we're trying to do here is to create something that can deliver on the promises that this industry has been making for a long time. You can actually build DAOs and DACs. You can actually make things that are accessible. I got to go to El Salvador and Honduras and Panama with Brock on these different delegations, and I have a lot of people that approach me often, because back in 2018, I was working on EOS DAC, building DACs and DAOs and DAC factories. And unfortunately, when they say, okay, I'm ready to go, how do I convert my company to a DAO? How do I build all these tools? How do I get my friends into DeFi and start doing DeFi transactions? And then they hear it's like $260 to do a DeFi transaction. Or they hear that the DAO technology isn't quite there. And so this is something I'm really excited about because I can finally have a solution for my friends. Question?
Hi, Luke. Thank
Hello.
you. So I wanted to see if you could talk a little bit more about the decentralization of Waterfall.
Definitely. So what was mentioned is the 64 servers in our testnet. What's interesting about a DAG, and I'd like you to touch on this more, Sergey, as well, is that my understanding of the different DAGs, I've looked at Nano and some of the others, where when you add more nodes, you actually add more computational power, which is very counterintuitive, meaning you have more people processing on the nodes. And the comment about it only being about as powerful as your cell phone is actually really, really important, meaning any old computer can participate. You don't have to have some gigantic ASIC mining farm, for example, to secure the network. Or you don't have to have a whole bunch of really powerful machines where they claim, oh, we can do 5,000 transactions a second or 10,000 transactions a second. What they don't mention, there's like a terabyte of RAM or something totally inaccessible for most normal people. So a big part of that decentralized nature is that anyone can participate, it's permissionless, and you don't have to have a ridiculous amount of wealth to run your own server. And the whole point of this industry is that we're doing something that's fully decentralized. Do you want to comment on the decentralized?
I agree to everything.
All right, excellent. And again, this is important. A lot of people don't realize that why does this all exist, right? If we could just use a MySQL server and all have shared access to it, what's the big deal, right? The whole Byzantine fault-tolerant nature of blockchain technology and digital ledger technology is that you are working with actors you can't necessarily trust. When you transfer something to someone, in a physical form, it's very easy. I can take something and give it to someone. Everyone knows it's theirs. A digital format, it's very hard to know I gave it to you, but I didn't give it to someone else first. It's the whole double spend problem. And so this technology has to be secure, it has to be immutable, and it has to be trusted in a way that when you see that transaction go through, you know that's the only transaction that went through. So security and performance is the entire point of this. And I feel like our industry is kind of getting away from that. They're thinking, oh, we can just centralize here and there, and we can do things through centralized bridges or centralized exchanges. So decentralization, if that gets lost, we kind of lose the whole point of this. And you've probably heard of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. They're going to be centralized, easy to use, low fees, high performance. And people are going to think, oh, that's great. We can just use that. Unfortunately, you're going to invalidate the entire reason for the industry if you do that. So this is important stuff we have to get right. Hernan, do you have a question?
I have it's a bit technical, but how are you guys solving for geolocation sparsity on Waterfall? What I mean by this is that generally the physical distance between the nodes can create a latency and then impact the speed of how the network performs. So how are you guys optimizing for that on Waterfall?
We eventually are planning to, and this is currently what we are currently researching. So we are planning to separate the proof of stake committee by creating strongly connected groups, which will be able to accumulate messages from this strongly connected group and then issue a block. So basically, when where our advantage comes from, we can at the same time we can produce multiple blocks. So if we have, for example, one region which have strong connection, they can accumulate messages and put them into the block. And we don't care about the other blocks which are published at this time. So this is the direction we are going. So yeah, that's one of the modifications which are about to happen.
I think we're out of time, but just to clarify that one, basically it's the advantage of the DAG is you can actually produce blocks in clusters and you won't have a double spend, which you can't do in blockchain technology. So thank you so much for your questions. Really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, come find us afterwards. We'd love to talk to you and play around with the testnet as well. Thank you.